This is, I hope, a huge completion video for me. It's just that the political world got so crazy in recent years, and we just had basically UFO Disclosure this morning with that Grusch thing, video, Cold Heart interviewing the whistleblower Grusch, and basically under oath he's told Congress everything. Obviously not under oath when he speaks to Cold Heart, but because it's the reporter Cold Heart. But when he speaks to Congress and he gives them all this plus more detail, he'd go to prison if he was lying. And on the contrary of lying, he's got loads of intelligence officers come out backing him up. And this morning, just hours after he's finished the Cold Heart interview, Cold Heart has come out and said that there are even more whistleblowers coming forward to back him up. From US intelligence. Now the thing here is, this isn't, it's not, how can I put this? It's just so amazing that I having to catch up with my own thinking here, because it's, when I think it through, I realise it's true. Like, it's not like there's people coming out saying, I've worked on these programs, that's not what we're doing, it's false. And there's not, also, it's not like in US intelligence here that they're saying, all these people who come out, they always explain that there are no debunkers who have this classified information. There's none. The factions war, this is what's educated me from them. It's not something I just know, obviously. So what I'm saying here is what US intelligence constantly say, the analysts say, the people who know the most what they say. They say that there's everyone who has access to this highest level classified information is all on the same side. So when they talk together, there isn't some looking at it saying, oh, this is bollocks. There's none of them saying that. It's 100% saying it's real. Now, that doesn't mean to say that they all want to come out and blurt it all out. It doesn't even mean to say that some just want to blurt it all out and others 100% want to get none of this out. All these whistleblowers admit that, some want to just do some of it. So Grusch, well, assuming that's all of it, right? There'll be others who would have preferred him not to have gone on about the crash retrievals, but perhaps gone on about them being things in the sky that we know for real and non-human intelligence. And now, Grusch wants to come out of it all because he thinks, well, maybe he just thinks that's the right thing to do, but he also thinks that it can improve human health and to progress science if we're all working together. If science is all working together, rather than doing this, nesting it in other programs that have nothing to do with UFOs. Someone comes in and says, can you take a look at this for me, please? Imagine some white coat man or woman and the microscopes looking at stuff and all that kind of stereotypical image in your head. But this program is not a UFO program. But look at this anyway, and they come back later and they say, yeah, that's non-terrestrial, meaning that object is not from Earth. So they're doing it like that. That's just like one fragment of what they're doing. Obviously, how can I say exactly how this goes on? It's mind-boggling, but it's real. And that's one thing they're doing, because I've heard that a lot. And then, I forgot his name, but worked defence analyst in the Obama's administration. He just, well, like that example there that I just gave, that person's not that they were dealing with a UFO phenomenon. Because she'd just think, well, it's come off a meteorite or something, obviously. Or he would think it's come off a meteorite. Whereas, so people who are working on this, they don't know that they're working on this except at the top. Nevertheless, there's hundreds of people working on this who do know, they have access, they've been working on it. Like Coulthard said this morning, that people who have worked on the craft, and get this, seen the bodies. They're coming out. They're going to come out now, or tomorrow or something like that. You know, very, very, very soon. It's a miracle. It's just mind-blowing what is coming out here. It's huge. It's enormous. Now, hundreds. He's saying I want him to come out with this. Hundreds. Not just like a few. So he's got. This isn't going to go away. Once you start talking about people who've either worked directly on the craft and bodies, like some have, that are going to come out, and others who've seen the classified information, so know it's real. And add on to that there's hundreds of these. That's going to explode. If it was just Grusch and he was on his own, and maybe one or two of his closest colleagues, then I would admit that this is like, maybe he's not going to be able to break through. I mean, there's obviously powerful forces wanting to keep this covered up now, because Grusch has accused the United States of mass murder, and while at the same time hoping and expecting and seeing a path to get this disclosed by the United States. Now, my opinion is that the United States, if it commits mass murder of its own citizens, would try to cover that up. It wouldn't just think, oh, it's... So I mean, like, it's just another reason why it's being covered. Because why the hell would the US confess to the US committing these crimes on its own people? Not committing them on foreigners who maybe don't deserve to die in a war situation I'm on about, because they're like just civilians, and the US kills them, or maybe the soldiers, and obviously don't deserve to die anyway, but actually their own citizens, meaning in anyone's book in America this is wrong. Not saying that the other stuff's okay, but this, you can imagine from the established point of view how bad this looks. It looks absolutely appalling. So when there's pushback on this, when there's denial of this, don't think, oh well, there we go, there's nothing to see here. They're not just going to come out and say, yeah, we're as bad as what Jack the Ripper and Yorkshire Ripper in the UK. We just kill our citizens when they see a UFO and watch shut up, and we tell them to shut up, you know, we tell them to, we warn them, and they just blab it out. Or we have to bump them off, we have to assassinate them. They're not just going to admit that. They're not just going to come out and admit that. They're going to hide behind the fact UFOs will hide behind that and try and deny it. But now they're stuck, because now they have to do the unpatriotic act of making their own intelligence services, making their own people at the top look like bloody idiots, when normally they like to praise them for being patriots and sort of thing. So now they're in a bit of a bind, really, aren't they? Now, the good thing is, this issue is getting support. It's getting support from Republicans. For example, Fox News have been absolutely brilliant on this. To be honest, but this is where it is, and the most famous of Democrat names are Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy. That's JFK's nephew. Now, Andrew Yang's on the side, but Yang's more famous for making universal basic income, putting that on the table, and getting a bit of a fan base. Yeah, but basically getting universal basic income on the table, that's what he's famous for, and he's happy with that, because it's what he says himself. He says it's more the success of the issue. He's happy with his life, he's comfortable, etc. Not the success of himself. It's the success of the issue that he's bothered about. So Jan goes for a political position and he fails to get it, he gets beat, then he's happy if UBI is still, he's like that. He's still being successful. He's making progress, and he thinks that more than himself, it's artificial intelligence that will really do it for UBI. I think that if he's speaking in the secrecy of his own himself, he'd merely give himself credit for putting it on the agenda a little bit early, and even then say it was because of COVID. So I think that he's not full of himself. He likes ideas, likes to discuss stuff, but he's not a power mag type. And I think that he's for this UFO stuff, but as I say, he's more about the issue of UBI and not about himself. Whereas the Kennedys know and deny it. They're a bloody dynasty, so we can't really say that they're not for themselves when they're all constantly trying to become president. He must be about the fourth one to try it. So they are for themselves, but he's at least he's admitting the UFO thing is real, not a conspiracy. So we've got the Republicans, especially Fox News. Tucker Carlson, my God, he's huge on this UFO stuff. On his first video post leaving Fox News, he talked about two things. One, Russia, which he backs against Ukraine, doesn't he? And two, UFOs. And he said that UFOs should be the world news headline constantly. Basically that was his message. It was a way of attacking the news media, but he was also saying that's what it would be leading headlines if everyone was like him. That is some bipartisanship, especially when you include that Barack Obama has sort of he's gone with the flow as far as the UFO issue's gone. He's gone. Now, big question for Barack Obama now, since 10 hours ago or something, it's gone much, much further. Will Obama continue to go with the flow? Because before he could say, well, UFOs, we don't know what they are. This was Obama's way of going with the flow, because he could have said, but he could have added to that the debunker's line of, but yeah, really definitely investigated them, would find out they're all pigeons, or something like that. But Obama never did that. He said, no, if there were birds and balloons, Obama's thinking was, then we wouldn't be, our servicemen and women and US intelligence would not be mistaking aliens and space stuff that, not aliens, exotic, advanced craft that we don't know what they are. We won't be confusing that with birds and balloons, especially when they're close up, especially when they're caught by the sensors and everything. Now, if Obama wants to stay on that trajectory of just going as far as we've gone, will he go as far as we've gone now? I certainly think he'll believe it's real, because of the reasons I gave at the start of this video. So I guess that he will. Simple as that. But that's quite something. If an ex-president wanted to put themselves first ex-president to come out and go along with this is up for him in the same way that, well, not quite as much as it is for Biden, but think about it. If he goes along with what Grusch has said, then did people commit these crimes against witnesses when he was in power? It's an open question. It's just like I don't know the answer to that. But one of his people that was in his team, it's like come out and supports all of this. Now we're moving into world. I'm just going to move on from UFOs now, not because it's the biggest issue ever, but this is as far as I've got. This isn't my field as such. The deep state, this is really deep state stuff. You don't learn the American deep state at A-level politics and university degree social science in the UK. It's astonishing stuff though. So I can only go as far. I think only anyone could go as far as we've gone. The amount of people with access to this information must be 0.000000001 fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. But it's still thousands. So that's what. So even though the message is tiny, you know, it's still a lot. It's incredible. Anyway, I want to move on to not just the revolution, the biggest revolution I just discussed, but the revolution in politics is absolutely phenomenal. It may be absolutely blown out of the solar system by what we're hearing from the UFO issue, but still within its own right is absolutely phenomenal. The realignment that is going on now is staggering beyond what anyone would have expected. I see people on the far left, speaking with likes of Caitlin Johnston, the Australian reporter, and you would think they would never ever convert to the right, but because of the anti-war positions of the right, and that they look like they're more peaceful than these centre-left types, I like converting en masse, you know, because the centre-left around Europe and America constantly getting at like Russia in wars for war, while the right don't want it. Again, that Carlson is a good example of that, and Fox. Now, I have one issue with this. One issue. I always remind myself that Carlson supported Trump, and Trump wasn't some kind of, you know, he said he was anti-establishment every day of the bloody week, but nevertheless, he was not, because he wanted it for himself. Anti-establishment does not mean that you're just against the other side. Otherwise, new. There's a heck of a lot new, that's for sure. But some people are fake anti-establishment, and a heck of a lot of people are real anti-establishment. Trump was fake anti-establishment. His attempt to bring down the state wasn't really an attempt to bring down the state. It was an attempt to try and grab the top of the US military and get them on side to use physical force over legal stuff like the Supreme Court. You know, once you get the tanks on your side, then what's the Supreme Court going to do? They're going to come out and bloody smash the tanks up, you know, that sort of thing. He couldn't do it. His attempt was a joke. It was absolutely brain dead. It was thick as two short planks. It was the most useless attempt at a revolution I've ever seen in my life. It's an embarrassment to dictators, and that's the thing. It's not an establishment when you're a dictator. There's a big difference. He's using anti-establishment, but really he's just a dictator. I don't accuse people of being anti-establishment, of being like bloody Hitler and Stalin and Mussolini and Franco. He's bloody nuts. So let's distinguish between someone who wants power for themselves. There are establishment, because I mean, you get, I don't just I'm not just picking on Trump. I mean, he deserves to be picked on, but there's also my claim left-wing revolutionaries. I give the same criticism of them when they say that they're anti-establishment. I think only if you're non-violent, peaceful revolution, you don't want any power for yourselves. But for most of history, or almost all revolutions, and most revolutionaries, they're just wanting it for themselves. So that's how I distinguish that. Otherwise you confuse dictators with peaceful people who want no power whatsoever. So that's why I have to do that. So otherwise I'm accusing both of being the same thing when they couldn't be further apart. It's fake anti-establishment and there's real anti-establishment. The real anti-establishment don't want power for themselves. They're not power mad, hungry, crazy dictators. And then you've got the other side. I bet Hitler thought of himself as anti-establishment. No, he's just absolutely insane establishment. So I see it. He got business together with the unions, corporatism, military. I mean, my God, he was pro-establishment on stilts. He was a gangster takeover of the establishment. Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. Monty Python to say Hitler was anti-establishment for me. Right, so this realignment has to be, when I discuss realignment, please bear in mind that I do not think that dictators are anti-establishment. Anti-establishment opposes the state. It doesn't say, I oppose the state depending on which flavour ice cream's in power. You know what I mean? It's a much bigger issue, and that's huge. So Trump says he's an anti-establishment, but was establishment. Some people who are dictators tell the truth, you know, that they just want it for themselves. They don't pretend to be anti-establishment. It's quite a new phenomenon, this. When I was a kid, there wasn't much of this. Anti-establishment was just some punk rocker on the blooming top of the pops, that sort of thing. But the world's changed so much. But yeah, there are anti-establishment amongst the right now. They're kind of libertarian, anti-war, see through the state types. Now, that's interesting to me. What a turnaround. Whereas this liberal centre left are upholding the state. Oh, it's bizarre. It's utterly bizarre. So you sort of like, I see as much connection with myself with Tucker Carlson as I do with the centre left. Some of me's like, they are the centre left, and some of me's like, he is. It's weird. It's a real revolution. I mean, realignment in the UK for me really started getting going in the mid-90s. Huge swathe middle class became liberal left. Now, of course, at the same time, my working class was becoming right wing, and you get that turnover. Now, the working class that made up for the loss of middle class on the right, if it makes any sense, they didn't become economically right wing. They became socially right wing. So what you have among the working class now all that's been worked through, is social conservatism and economic left wing ideas. Whereas on the liberal left, you have similarly social democratic ideas, but they're socially liberal, and the liberals really have to go. They really don't do us any favours to create division. It's time they went, really, but it's difficult because once these labels have been put out there by the state superstructure for their own power, to divide the people among themselves to make them look like they've got freedom, they are under social control, and no one, however, gives up social control easily. So they want broken relationships among the people. They want us to be divided among ourselves. They want us to be screwed up politically. They want us all like that. They don't want harmony. Harmony doesn't suit them. It ends them. So we have to face it that we got beat on that to a large extent, basically. Look, the state in the US has been murdering people for UFOs, right? So I think a bit of propaganda for their own power is hardly going to be too much for them to take. They're not going to think, oh, we can't do that, the poor souls. No, think about it. Propaganda for their own power. I think screwing with our minds is well worth it. Their attitude towards us would be, oh, diddums, have we screwed with your mind? They don't give a shit about that. They don't give a shit about killing people, so... US, let's put it simply, US is a mass murdering state of its own citizens. We know that now. So propaganda, so what? And this is the sort of thing that Carlson can see, or Kennedy can see. They can see it. Now, liberal left, right, says bugger all on this in the UK. And the liberal left Democrats generally say bugger all about it. I mean, that's the change in the state is possible because it's been given to Congress, and of course Kennedy's wanting to be president, so there's prospects there. But yeah, the thing is, this realignment now is just really going full circle. I mean, it's massive. And then we've got the war issue, liberal left, absolutely crap. Just go along with the propaganda against Russia, whereas the right, they're the ones who see through that. I see that Le Pen, Farage, Carlson, these types actually see through that. It's bizarre. It's really bizarre, and I'm thinking it's what it's doing is it's destroying political labels 100%. It's making people like me, conservatives who can see through the Russia-Ukraine propaganda, see through the UFO propaganda and the mass murder, see through the state basically, because where does that leave it? The propaganda, the megaphones. Now you see, I've also said that you got these Trump types who just want the megaphones for themselves. But there's also those. This is really weird. The realignment is so extreme. It's so extreme. It's not like, oh well, we've got the same sort of tax and spend. You know, we're way beyond that. That's like saying, that's like when you think of UFO issue was about birds. To think that politics is now just about something like tax and spend. And this stuff goes out to absolutely tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people. The stuff I've been going on about is put out there not just by Carlson, it's put out there by Joe Rogan. Elon Musk discusses it. Russell Brand discusses it. And I saw a small publication the other day that had a UFO article in it. I remember the figure of how many views it has. I'll tell you why in a sec. It had 147,000, and this is just a small publication, and everyone else missed it. I just remembered the figure because I said, remember that figure, remember 147 in Snoop, but think of it as in the thousands. So yeah, maximum break 147, so it's still a little way to remember that. There's other publication, I mean the News Nation, it's had millions upon millions upon millions of views. News Nation's the one who got the exclusive on Grusch, the whistleblower. We are beyond right and left now. We're beyond Tory, Labour, all that stuff. What we're at now is a revolution in thinking. It's all gone schizophrenic. It's all gone schizophrenic. This is an absolute mega revolution of thinking. I'm no longer on the liberal left side on that online. Got to get a peaceful world, got to get the technology from the UFO issue out into the world for health. I do reject though any fake anti-establishment on the right. This has got to end, this sort of attitude of I'm against everything but then missing out the one thing they're for, which is for themselves. I just think there's some liars on that make out that they're just not wanting power when they are wanting to take all the power. I'm very much not on the side of any Trumpian because they missed that bit out, which is a bit like it's a bit like an analogy I'll give would be playing a game of football, soccer, and you're denying that you want to score a goal. You're just doing all the passing, all the dribbling, acting like you want to score. Well, actually, you want to stick the ball in the net. You're lying. That sort of thing. They're missing out the crucial bit. But like I say, not everyone does. Not everyone does. It's just, I just think that the main point I'm trying to make on realignment, I've struggled to make my clarifying point, but I'm going to do it now, is that we're beyond the old-fashioned bread and butter of politics, where we're just talking about, I don't know, in the 90s, a penny on income tax, fund education. That would be the massive difference between the left and the right. And I'm thinking now we're at world peace, getting this secret out for millions of people for health on UFOs, getting the secret out in its own right. Stop messing about with China. Stop the propaganda megaphones. I think that that's where we're at now. These issues have exploded. They have nuked the old divisions in politics for me, and have put me closer to, I don't know, someone like Joe Rogan than it's put me to the old-fashioned centre-left. Now, that's their fault for not moving with the times. And these times have exploded, and to stay in that exact same position means that, yeah, I mean, sometimes people say it's not me that changed, it's them. Well, in my case, it's me that changed because things moved on, people. The old centre-left just standing still. It's insane. So I've waved goodbye to them for being blind, basically. Deaf, dumb, blind, a lot. They're just totally thick. They just stood there. So I'm waving goodbye to them because the world's moved on. Simple as that. The world's moved on. I'm not standing still, acting like it hasn't. If the world moves on and you stand still, then then you don't just stay as correct or as incorrect as you were 10 years ago. You become bloody well thick and incorrect. Just because you haven't changed doesn't mean to say that you are no more incorrect than you were 10 years ago. It means you are a heck of a lot more wrong than you were 10 years ago. It means you're thick as two sharp planks, whereas 10 years ago maybe you were okay with the excuse that, you didn't know any of this. You don't want that excuse anymore. The world's moved on. I mean, wake up and smell the coffee, for effing sake. We have moved on. So, mine's bye-bye to the centre-left. You're too much up the NATO and America's arse on Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine needs a humanitarian ton of help. But to not be able to see through America and all the wars they've been involved in and all the stuff they do, and now we know they kill their own citizens, and we already knew they took out for innocent civilians in war zones because of WikiLeaks. Come on, it's simple. You don't have to be an expert. I'm no expert. You just need to know this much. So what I do think that the kind of new bit of the centre left moves on a bit on universal basic income, but I don't think they're that far ahead of the liberal centre right on that. I just think that AI will come in and they both do it at the same time anyway, so really no difference there. There's very little I can say that was pushing me to stay with where I was and to ignore realignment. I mean, it's staggering. It is staggering, I admit. The first 15 odd minutes of this video, well, that was like the cake, right? That was like the cake. But this last 22 minutes or so I've been talking about realignment. While I could say, oh, it's the icing on the cake, it's more than just a bit of icing. It's a ton of icing on a ton of cake. It's a cake in itself. It's a cake on top of a even bigger cake. So yeah, I'm not really fitting into any particular category. I mean, it's like I'm the anti-establishment new category that doesn't want power for itself, because that's not anti-establishment. Accepts the modern world, but understands that the modern world is not what we think the modern world is. It's a revolution. It's the right of the new bloody pacifists, in my view. There's two sections that haven't moved on with the world. One's the liberal left, and one's the likes of liberal centre right, and they're so close to each other. It's incredible. For example, you get the Cameron and Osborne types who fit in nicely with the centre left, or the centre left fit in nicely with them. And yeah, they're not going to do any harm to gay people, and that, I agree with that gay marriage stuff. Of course I do. It's as simple as I agree with heterosexuals being left alone. It's as simple as that. But there's so much more as well. You know what I mean? There's so much, the world is much, much, much bigger than that. All this extra stuff with wars and with UFO issue that I discussed in the first 15 minutes, just keep reversing back to that, rewinding back to that. This is huge. It's huge. And I almost think that that's like the big disagreement in this world, that they can't see past this narrow confine while thinking that, oh, we're up to date with the modern world. There's so much bloody more. I now position myself. I admit that when I started this video, I knew I was going to discuss. I didn't exactly know what my new position was, but I do now. I'm on the left of the of the ones who I say now understand the picture world. So I'm on the left of the Rogan and Carlson, Fox News types like that. Now, I exclude anyone who puts themselves in this category who does not tell the truth on power when they just, if they are Trumpian, I exclude them. So I'm not on the Trump side where he's just a criminal, basically, and he's mentally ill. Well, I'm on that. I don't. When I listen to Rogan, he's a lot more, 100,000 times more thoughtful and intelligent than Trump. Yeah, so I'm putting myself on the left of the likes of those that have seen through the war machine state. And this is the right that do this. This is the right. All the propaganda news media, and it's the right again who are mainly doing that for all the shit, right, the centre left take from the UK news media. They're the most loyal I've ever seen. They're absolutely fiercely loyal to them. So it's not them, it's the right that want to get rid of all this news media shit. It's them. Now, it's really bizarre. There we go. It's true. It's true. You know, with Nigel Farage, who came up with the term Daily Fail. Not the left. You'd think it would be, wouldn't you? No. Anyway, so yeah, I'm on the left of all that evolutionary stuff. Now you say, in what way are you on the left? Well, I just accept the modern world. Because the Cameron Osborne bit, or the liberal left bit. But that's, like I said now, that's this much. That's a tiny bit of bourbon biscuit for my dog. Whereas the bigger picture of the world, well, it's a mountainous cake compared to this bit of chocolate. So it's this, but it's Mount Everest in size. So, I mean, like, that's where we're at now. An absolute revolution. For those, the reason I disowned liberal left is because they haven't kept up with the modern world. And that is ironic, because they claim to have done so. I claim they have done no such thing. They are up the arse of the state. They are pro-state superstructure. They want to be it. They are it to a large extent. And bye-bye. That's what I say to that. Bye-bye. Now, if I were you, well, you don't have to listen to me again. You could listen to David Grusch and Ross Coulthart, and there might be a lot more by now. But just listening to the first 15 minutes of me is a bloody miracle, because I mean, what I say there is just so huge. So just rewind and play that 15 minutes again. I would. Anyway, oops. Bye for now.